highlight the importance of this particular action and of all the work that Coal Action Network and London Mining Network have been doing, because this type of pressure, this type of message that we're giving to the UK government highlights its complicity in the death and the continued devastation of environments and of people, not only in the UK but around the world as well. Now, the 30% of UK thermal coal burned in UK burning stations comes from Colombia, and the majority of this comes from a particular mine called the Cerrejón mine, which is owned coincidentally by 3 companies listed on the London Stock Exchange. They're Anglo-American, BHP Billiton and Glencore. These companies have been developing the Cerrejón operation for the last 17 years, and the impacts have been devastating. So currently the mine, which expands something like 69,000 hectares across the whole of the region, sits on the territories of about 21 indigenous and Afro-Colombian communities. These are communities which are protected by international law, which are protected by national Colombian law, yet 15 of these communities have been either violently displaced and dispossessed. Now, when we think about displacement, we think about sort of geographical displacement from one place to another. But when we talk about displacement, we mean much more than that. And in the report which Coal Action Network produced last year, which is phenomenal, and I suggest everyone reads it if they haven't, they in their research, they found out just what it means for communities to be displaced. And they say that dispossession and displacement from their territories means not only the loss of their ways of life, but also their understanding of the world, their ancestral knowledge, their cultural practices. They lose their desires, their dreams, their spirituality, their cemeteries, their food, their land, their houses, their neighbors, their water, the woods, the clean air that they have, their tranquility, their ideas and hopes for the future, their gods, the ways of carrying out justice, their languages, their understandings of a dignified life. Unlike in the UK, this is all preventable. It's a crisis. It's a crisis because not only do we contribute to the crisis by burning the coal here, it's a crisis because the 3 companies involved in the extraction of coal in this area completely disregards the rule of law, disregards human rights, and continuously goes above the community demands, primarily because these are indigenous people, these are black people whose lives are simply seen as worthless. Many thousand people have been affected by the extraction of this coal. One particular problem in the region is a lack of access to water. So there's a lot of water scarcity already in La Guajira. This is at the same time that the coal mine uses 17 million liters of water per day to spread to wet the floors which carry the coal along the roads. Now, at the same time that they're using 17 million liters of water every day, we have a crisis, a humanitarian and human rights crisis, where 5,000 indigenous YU children have died in the last 10 years because of a lack of access to water and to food. It isn't a coincidence, then, that we find that the company has completely captured the institutions, the bodies that are there to regulate environmental standards and to ensure a dignified life for the people in the region. The Cerrejón mine is the hegemon in the area. And just last week, we were alerted to a critical situation. Our friend Samuel got in touch with us and said to us, there are 8 people who are critically ill from illnesses related to coal extraction, from silicosis to respiratory illnesses. And these illnesses, completely preventable, aren't treated in the local hospitals. They're not treated because the company exercises such control over those hospitals that those health cases or those health-related impacts are wiped off records. their class as something else. So the critical situation is that we're looking for funds to get 8 people from La Guajira to a place called Cartagena, where they can be seen accordingly and without manipulation of their conditions, to basically whitewash the image of the company under their veil of corporate social responsibility. Yeah. So I think it's really important to carry out this action because it will have an immediate effect on pressures in local governments in Russia, in the US, and in Colombia. And without this pressure, it means that there'll be almost complete and total decimation of these indigenous territories that are so sacred, these ancestral territories that are so sacred to so many in Colombia. Thanks.